What's up and welcome to the Kind of Funny Gamescast for Monday, May 6th, 2024. Of course, I am Tim Geddes, and I am joined by the new face of video games, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good day, Tim.
Good day to you, and good day to you as well, the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Good morning.
And rounding out the group today, calling in from beautiful, sunny San Diego, California, it's Paris Lilly.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Really happy to be here today.
I am very happy to have all of you here today. This feels like one of those lucky ones.
It's a blessed day.
It is. The fact that we get to talk about Hades 2, everybody. The early access is out now. A very, very surprise shadow drop. We were very lucky enough to have it the last couple days, so we've been able to play, but now everybody gets to play. So y'all, listen to us talk about this. Me and Andy are going to stream it after this, but you too could be playing this magnificent, magnificent video game. But of course, enough about all that. Let me give you some reminders real quick. This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast, where each and every weekday we get together to talk about the biggest reviews, previews, and topics in video games live on YouTube, Twitch, and podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, please support us with the Kind of Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free, watch us record them live, and get a daily exclusive show. For a chance to be part of this show, you can submit your thoughts and opinions as YouTube super chats as we go. So if you have anything to say about Hades 2, any questions about what we've got to experience in the early access, how it differs from the first game, what your experience was with the technical test, any of that stuff, super chat it in. We will get to it. Some housekeeping for you. Kind of Funny Games is an 11-person small business that's all about live talk shows. Today, you've already gotten PlayStation Reversing Course on Helldivers 2 on Kind of Funny Games Daily that you can check out on YouTube, Twitch, and podcast services. Up next, like I said, me and Andy are going to be streaming Hades 2 on YouTube and Twitch. And if you're a Kind of Funny member, we got a whole bunch of fun for you as well. Today's Greg Way is a secret that you won't want to miss, and you are going to get blessed.
Do you know the secret?
No,
Okay. I don't know either.
I have no idea.
It's fun stuff. It's a little switcheroo, but you know what it is. But like, yeah, it's happening because you and Roger are going to be breaking down everything that's been going on in the worlds of Kendrick Lamar and Drizzy Drake out there. And everyone else, if you're a member, you get to watch today. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till tomorrow to get it on YouTube and podcast services. Thanks for making our dreams a reality. Patreon producers, Delaney Twining, Kieran Hovasapian, and Carl Jacobs. Today, we're brought to you by Aura Frames, Shady Rays, and BetterHelp, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is and forever will be the topic of the show. It's Hades 2, everybody. Paris Lilly, I want to start with you real quick. How long have you played Hades 2 Early Access, and what are your thoughts?
So I've probably played about 18 to 20 hours of it this weekend. And I'm pretty much completely head over heels in love with this game. I was late to the party with the first Hades. I didn't join the bandwagon until, a good year or two, until after the game was out. So when they first announced that Hades 2 was going to be a thing, I got super excited about it. I actually didn't put a lot of time into the technical tests. Just I was busy with other things. So this was my first real time to sink some real time into Hades 2 and play it and understand the new mechanics and just everything about it. It's phenomenal. This is taking the template of that first Hades game and listening to all the feedback from people that played it and just the great lessons learned with this. It's a complete improvement of everything of the original game. This is phenomenal. I can't even believe this is early access. Just put it out now. It's great already. It's fantastic. I'm stumbling over my words trying to say it, but yeah, it's great. I love this game.
Yeah, thoughts that I feel like might be repeated a lot today. Blessing, what did you think about this, and how long have you put into it so far?
I've put in probably around 12 hours into this so far. And yeah, I think Paris hit the nail on the head in terms of it doesn't even feel like early access. I had to go over to the iGen review to actually figure out, because Mitchell Saltzman has played through the whole thing over there, and like he had to break down that let's see, he talks about how there's some placeholder art assets, there are still more weapon aspects to come, there's a weapon missing from the Arsenal of 6, there's currently no proper story ending, and there's still another planned region that's coming in a future update. But like for the 12 hours that I've played, I'm like, I wouldn't have known, right? Like this feels like such a full experience. I played enough to like have it feel so far like it's way more bigger and way deeper than Hades 1 was, which is wild to think about. I think the biggest way to put it, and I think this might almost be hyperbolic at this stage, but for where I'm at with the game, I'm really feeling it. This reminds me of the jump from Portal 1 to Portal 2, where Portal 1 came through and you play it and you're blown away, and it's such a good concept, it's such a good execution, and it's like a nice tight package, and you finish it, you're like, wow, incredible. Playing Hades 2, it is shocking the amount of things that just feel seamlessly just better, right? Like one of the things I talked about with the technical test is that in Hades 1, the dash attacks and like how much I'm dashing in that game always felt a bit button mashy in a way that I didn't fully vibe with. That's one of the things they've kind of tweaked here, where of course they still have dashes and all that stuff, and there are like dash attack stuff, but it's way less emphasized, and now sprinting is way more emphasized as a way to get around the map. That is like a small example among so many examples now that I've been able to find of just ways that they've tweaked it. The new weapons are so good and way more varied, and I think way more interesting than the first game. The environments, when you go from region to region, the way that things are set up to feel a bit more varied, I think is really impressive. The first game has had areas that you would get to, especially like the fourth area in the first game, had a gimmick to it where it's, okay, no, this is a nice switch up. This game has way more of those, and ways where it's like, wow, you guys really found ways to continue to keep this fresh and keep it interesting. And yeah, there's so much to talk about in terms of characters, stories, crafting, finding resources, how much that stuff loops back together, and how well paced out all that stuff is. It feels like I'm playing a masterclass in video game design right now. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving Hades 2 so far.
Andy, how long have you put in? What you thinking?
I'd say I'm around 12 to 13 hours in. And yeah, the seamless nature of all these interconnected systems that work so perfectly with each other. And it's one of those things where you have to have somebody experience it to understand how good it is, because I know a lot of the questions can be, well, what makes it different from Hades 1? And that's something that I think needs to be experienced, because on the surface level, it looks and feels very similar, right? But that's not a bad thing. It's, hey, your favorite restaurant, they just build a new one a block away from you. Like, oh, should I get to have more of my favorite restaurant? And it's like it's just, yeah, like Blessy was mentioning, it's a masterclass in game design. It kind of makes me realize, after spending a decent amount of time with Hades 2, and of all the hours I put into Hades 1, and of all the years we've had to kind of reflect on Hades 1, like, oh, they kind of fucking nailed it with Hades 1. And there was still some things that they could improve on in Hades 2. And so far, I'm seeing all those, all of the fruits of their labor, right? Like honestly, I'm getting a lot of, oh shit, there's an underground and an overworld and an in the sky of Link to the, or in Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom, yeah.
Like how are they doing that? And I'm getting some of those vibes here as well. This world is so much larger than I expected it to be. I wasn't expecting to have this much access in early access, and I wasn't expecting the game to be what feels to be this much bigger than Hades 1 was. Yeah, I love the weapons, all of the interplay with these systems and abilities. It's so much fun. It's got just one of the most satisfying loops to get back, and I was mining silver that run, and now I have a bunch of these plants that I can then plant. And if any of that turns you off, don't worry, it's not like that. Like it's it's just so easily and so seamlessly designed in there. I love
when games trick you into enjoying the crafting systems and the resource gathering, because I'm so not the resource gathering person. I don't play survival games and stuff like that, but this game has such an excellent, all right, and I was talking to Tim about this earlier today. Like you go out in a run and you're like, all right, like I'm gonna get these resources that I know I need to get the specific thing, and then I'll probably call it for the day. You do that, you end up fucking going for the run, because early on the game does such a good job of giving you these builds where it's like, well, I got to see this through. But you finally finish it, you get back, and it's, all right, let me craft the thing that I wanted to craft. And as you're crafting it, you see another thing, and you're like, yeah, oh snap, let me do this.
This next thing's ready.
It's right there. Shit. And it's like, oh, well, let me just do another room. Let me just do the first room, make sure I can get this thing. And it continues to go. It's so good.
It's so good. Tim, how do you feel?
All right, man. This game so far is one of the biggest surprises in video games I think I've ever had, in so many different ways. One of them being the early access is as substantial and out now. You know what I mean? Like that's so much sooner. I feel like all of us would have expected earliest Summer Game Fest. Maybe we get that shadow drop or something, but for it to come out now just feels so wild to me, just in the cadence of how video games have been coming out. The technical test being just a couple weeks ago, I fell in love with that. I put about 5 hours into it, and I wanted so much more. And when we found out that early access was coming this soon, I was like, whoa, like, how much more is there really going to be? I cannot believe how much more there is. Like, this feels like such a complete game. Right now, I am about 10 hours into this, into the early access. So 15 total into Hades 2. And every step of the way, I am just blown away by how invested I am in every single mechanic and every single thing that they add. And it is the ultimate, all right, just one more run type game. But what Bless and I were talking about is not only is it the, all right, I'm just going to do one more run. It's also then getting back to the crossroads, which is essentially your like hub area in this one. And being like, all right, cool. I'm just going to check in with everybody and see what's going on with the support systems of talking to people and seeing who's new here, or like what new weird things happening, or what door opened up, or what chest that wasn't there before is now there. All right, now I'm going to do one more run. All right, now I'm just going to do one more check in the crossroads. It's like such a good back and forth of what we're doing. And the gameplay is just so masterful, and the way that every single weapon, every single ability you get, I didn't think you could improve much on Hades 1. And I think that's going to be a common theme of people talking about this. Of Hades 1 was just so special and so great. We've talked about it here for so long. And like for me, it is definitely a little out of my comfort zone in the type of game that it is. But I was still satisfied with how I felt like I was making progress with every run, even though I have to go back from the beginning. But like, you're getting new story beats, you're getting upgrades that stick with you. It hit a point in Hades 1 that, I mean, Hades 1 to me is a 5 out of 5, but there were some runs that I was like, okay, I'm doing this just to get to the next run because I know this run's not going to work for me. So far in Hades 2, every run, I am surprised at how I feel like I might get farther than I did last time, no matter what build I have. And that's such a great game design thing of just like, no matter what abilities you get or boons or anything, you feel like, oh, I could do something different with this run that I haven't been able to do before. And it is so impressive that then I have my mindset of, oh man, if I don't have this weapon, this isn't the one for me. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, maybe I like this thing better. And I don't think I dislike any of the abilities. So, well, that's not true. The hex system, I still don't fully have my head wrapped around.
Dude, the hex system. Wait, actually, never mind. I'm thinking of a different. I'm thinking of the cast system. The hex system, I might be with you.
But it's so far, I am just so blown away that like moment to moment, that's all happening with gameplay. And then I get back to the crossroads. And is there unlimited dialogue in this game? Like,
it's crazy how much
are there writers writing this in real time? I just don't understand. Paris, go for it.
No, I'm so glad you went there, because that's what I wanted to hit next. Look, the writing in Hades was already great. I don't think any of us will disagree with that. They've stepped their game up. This is so good. I would find myself in the first Hades wanting to hurry up and get through the dialogue so I could get to the next thing. I was listening to everything that everyone had to say, and it was interesting every time. So to your point, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they got Chat GPT running in the background and just keeping this thing going, because it's really good. And it's so varied coming off of each run that you have too, where it does feel like they are reacting to what you just did in the game. It's so good.
I think it's a lot more contextual than in Hades 1. Hades 1 had a lot of contextual dialogue, but here it is, I came in with a keepsake, and the first boss I find is like, oh, you got a keepsake from this person? Oh, that's interesting. And I'm like, damn, that is very specific that you're addressing this. Very like, you know, that run, I can think of like 4 different things that I did that were specific to that run, where I run into somebody else and they're like, oh, fancy seeing you here. You've not been here in a second. And I'm like, damn, dude, you remember me. Like,
you're
this
right.
is really cool.
Clearing a boss with the tiniest amount of health, when you know that the last couple times you've completely just destroyed the boss, and this time you barely made it, and they're like, and I almost had you there.
Dude,
it's like,
there was one where, to give a very specific example that people will get if you played the technical test, that first boss, Hecate, there's a move that they do where she throws like this blast that'll turn you into a sheep, and you gotta like dodge around. For my first probably 6 runs, couldn't dodge that, and then finally one time I dodged, and she's like, oh, usually that hits.
Yeah,
that
me
usually
too.
hits. Yeah,
that happened to me too.
And I was like, that's fucking cool. Like, I love the stuff that they're keeping track of to then add that bit of flair to the dialogue to keep it feeling like this. Oh shit! Like, this is a personal experience I'm having with this game.
I think my favorite thing about it so far, though, is the commitment to systems that work and not trying to change something for the sake of change. And I could see there being, a bit of temptation there within the developers are like, yeah, but we can't just keep that identical. We got to like change something there. And I love that they committed to the stuff that I think worked flawlessly in Hades 1, like the gifting one of these people something, you give them a little thing of nectar, and then they let you start off a run with their little special
Their
keepsake, right? And it's one of my favorite systems from Hades 1, and I'm so glad that it's pretty much identical in Hades 2, except for the actual I guess enhancements you're getting for the run. But it's still super cool that system went largely untouched, and I'm super happy about that. And there's a lot of things like that in the game where I think a developer that maybe questioned themselves a bit too much may have tried to change something just to say that they changed it. And in here, the stuff that worked, I think, went largely, unchanged here, and I'm super happy about that.
And I really like the stuff they changed so far. Like the cast system in Hades 1, I vibe with the idea of it. I think it worked in a lot of the execution, but there's so much of the execution that it didn't work for me.
Can you explain the difference between the Hades 1 cast and Hades 2 cast?
Yeah, so the Hades 1 cast, you're basically throwing a projectile, like this red projectile, that will kind of like attach to the enemies, and then once you hit the enemy, or once you like beat the enemy, you'll get the cast thing back. And usually those might have like different effects depending on the boons that you get to upgrade it. But usually I think it's something like, oh yeah, you'll hit them with a cast, they take some damage, they might take more damage if they have it in them, and then you hit them back and then get it back. In Hades 2,
was the taking it back from them on an enhancement ability, or was that always just the stock thing?
I think it was always just the stock thing.
Gotcha.
I think what the effect it had before it came back to you, that was what.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was what was enhanced. But the Hades 2 cast now is an area of effect circle that you're now casting, right? It is more. She's Melunui, the main character, is more of like, she has like more witchy kind of powers, and so you do this area of effect, and there are so many upgrades and so many boons attached to how you can do it. And so the default is you press the cast, it like forms a circle around you. I don't even know what the default thing is. I think maybe enemies take more damage.
It slows them down.
It slows them
like
down.
Hands pop up and they have to stay.
They can't walk
circle.
through it.
Gotcha. But that's like default if you press that, and then if you hold it, it does like a magic enhanced version of it that I think does more damage as it goes away.
It'll detonate essentially.
Yeah. But there are so many different boons that you find to upgrade it, and for me, that's defined the bulk of my runs is what I'm doing with that ability, because there will be some that turn it into a like a bomb that you can throw essentially, and so like it turns into a projectile, and then wherever it lands, that's where the circle forms. But then maybe you can be able to enhance that to then give some kind of like effect to the enemies, right? Maybe make them cursed, maybe make them like whatever the thing is. There's depending on like what boons you get, there's another one that where you form the cast at, they'll automatically get like the lightning from Zeus or whatever. Like there's so many different things that you can do with it, and I find it way more useful and way more interesting than how it was used in Hades 1.
Yeah, essentially with Hades 1 and 2, the cast and the special are just flipped. Yeah, because in Hades 1, Zagreus' powers were the main weapon, and then the special was the special that weapon is doing. And here the special is very similarly just that sort of like arrow, that casting. Go ahead, Paris.
Yeah. I just want to pivot off of what Blessing was just saying. The thing that I'm loving the most about this is, first of all, with the casting, your special and your attack, there's basically that power up option to it, where if you hold it down, depending on the type of boons that you get, it'll do some kind of effect, blast effect, or whatever the case, right? But I'm loving the build diversity overall that you can have through each run because of the various boons that you get, and just, lack of a better term, the diversity of them. Each run feels so unique just because of that. I might go into a run. Like one thing that I was noticing is, and I'm with you, Tim, where this isn't necessarily my wheelhouse, but I don't feel that it's overly difficult. But I'm learning each time that I'm going in these runs, and I'm finding most of the time it's because it's a new enemy that I'm running into, and I just don't know what to do. But once I figure out what to do, then when I go in the next run, I'm like, all right, if I run into them again, all right, if I have this, and this, I know how I'm going to take them out and what I'm going to do. So that to me is what is separating it from the first Hades, where it does feel unique every time I go in.
I'm surprised at the amount of like unique dialogue stuff like we were talking about, and like the slim health or whatever it was. But then also in Hades 1, again, a lot of the stuff we're talking about, Hades 1 had. Hades 2 just has so much more of it at every single turn that I feel like it needs to be called out. But the amount of times that I will be like 17 runs in, and then on the 18th run, all of a sudden a room that I've been to a million times, we go through a different door, it feels like, and not literally door, but like there's someone else in there that brings the path completely differently. And I'm just so shocked at how they keep throwing things at you, and there's so many systems, there's so many abilities, there's the boons, then there's the hex, then there's the weapons that you're using, there's mixing them all together, there's the buffs that you all that stuff, there's the enhancements that you kind of like level up and you get to keep with you as you go into different runs. There's the card system that you get to like you have what I forget what it was called. Grasp. Maybe it's Grasp, where you get a certain amount of points that you can allocate to these different cards that each have different abilities, but that's different than the keepsakes. There's just so much that like it could be overwhelming, but when you just play and you don't worry about letting it overwhelm you, you just kind of like take things as it goes, it just constantly rewards you. And I feel like that is going to what Andy was saying, or I think maybe it was one of the Andy or Bless talking about the farming simulator type stuff where it's like, I don't want to do this shit. It doesn't feel that way. It always feels like it's a one button press that's very clear of, in 5 encounters, this silver thing is going to pop up, and then I get the silver that I can then buy this other thing with. And it just all works in this amazing web that I'm just so shocked that the moment I feel like I've totally got my head wrapped around something, they introduce something else that not only adds to everything we've done so far, but enhances everything we've done.
It's the ultimate carrot on the stick. I constantly feel like, all right, that next run, I'm going to get that thing that I can't wait. So it's constantly compelling me to want to keep playing and just do it over and over. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it is an incredibly paced game. Like to everything Tim's talking about, like there is literally kind of a farming system. You plant stuff and you can like get back plants or whatever. And that feeds back into the crafting system. And the fact that, they're mixing all these things, it never becomes overwhelming. I think that comes back to how well they're pacing it and how they're tying these systems to characters, to other systems. Like nothing, I feel like a lot of games will have a bunch of shit where it is, oh man, all right, well, I got to farm, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. All of this is contextualized within ways that make me open to trying these different systems that typically if I looked at in other games, the way they package it, I'm like, oh no, I'm good. Here, I'm like, no, I got to plant this thing so I can get this other thing, so I can get to this other area that I'm trying to get to. And I think the pacing comes back to the difficulty of it, where I think the game does a very smart thing as a roguelike, where I think the first areas are fairly easy, or at least on the easier side compared to like a lot of other roguelikes. And I think the reason why they do that is, one, they want to get you in, they want to get people in, right? They want to allow people to ease into it and like, not get discouraged early on. But then also like one of the things we haven't talked about so far is that the game has 2 paths now. And so like quite a few hours into the game, you open up like an upstairs area that you're going down, and that is where like the difficulty hits you in the face early on. And I think it's great they did it that way, right? Where the first path that you have as you're going through, like the difficulty hits you way later on in that path, but in the other one, it is all right. Here's where the roguelike sets in. Like here's where the difficulty sets in, and I think it's done extremely well.
Yeah. Remember, you can get your super chats in here. Levstar says, should I play Hades 1 while I wait? Absolutely. Hades 1 is amazing. And I personally feel like Hades is the type of game, and Hades 2, that you can't play too much. Like, you're not going to get sick of these games. There's just so much great stuff, whether it's the art, the VO, the gameplay itself. Like, there's so much good stuff. Having said that, somebody else asked this, and their name's gone now, but you could totally jump into Hades 2 without ever touching Hades 1 and have the best experience ever. Like, there's literally nothing that I feel like you'll be losing. Obviously, if you played Hades 1, you're going to get the fun, oh, that's what that character's doing, or that's what that character's. So far, at least, none of that stuff is like make or break for your experience, though.
Yeah, totally agreed. And yeah, just going back to when I was like initially first thinking about my experiences with Hades 1, and how I've kind of been just chasing that roguelite high ever since. And I think maybe Returnal's the closest I've gotten to having that feeling. But Hades 1 just did such a great job, and they nailed every aspect of what a roguelite needs to be, with abilities and upgrades and making every run feel like you're accomplishing something. And that is so helpful for Supergiant this time around, to be able to say, hey, we kind of nailed everything. We're not really trying to create new systems from the ground up necessarily. There's definitely some new stuff in this game, absolutely, but it lends them. They are in such a situation where they could just enhance everything that they needed to from the last game, as opposed to like, here's this brand new thing we're trying out. We hope it works. This time around, they're like, no, let's just kind of double down on what already made Hades 1 great and change some things where we feel like, we need to see some changes. And I think it's like they're in such a great position right now for the future of Hades 2.
Yeah, and I think jumping off of that, like a good example is just the art itself. The art is gorgeous. Hades has one of the most defined art styles that we've ever seen. Like, it just works so damn well. But the classic kind of character art's popping up, which, I mean, some of the best character art in the game.
Yeah.
Like,
There's not a bad looking character in this game.
Yeah, it's so cool to see them. And like, they're just, it's beautiful. And then they sound great and all that. But what's new for Hades 2 is there's these like effects when they're talking around them of kind of like what we have going on with the video wall stuff, where there's just like slight motion or like little things happening, or depending on where you're talking to them, there might be like trees or foliage that like kind of lightly comes in front. And it's an effect that is so subtle that if you're playing Hades 2, you might not even realize it wasn't in Hades 1, but seeing it, it's like, oh, this is where all the little enhancements are. Like, you just took a amazing game and you're just like turning it into a masterpiece, like little by little.
Yeah.
I think don't forget the music.
Oh my God, the music is incredible.
So good.
It is so good. Remember, get your super chats in. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsors, but when we're back, we're going to keep talking about Hades 2 Early Access. This episode's brought to you by Aura Frames. Looking for the perfect gift to celebrate the moms in your life? Aura Frames are beautiful Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames that allow you to share and display unlimited photos. It's super easy to upload and share photos via the Aura app, and if you're giving an Aura as a gift, you can even personalize the frame with preloaded photos and memories. Greg, Kevin, and a ton of people here at Kinda Funny are obsessed with their Aura frames. It takes about 2 minutes to set up a frame using the Aura app. You can add unlimited photos and videos and invite as many people as you want to a frame. Aura displays photos in true color and automatically adjusts for the light level of the room. At night, when you turn off the lights, your frame also turns off to save energy. From grandmothers to new mothers, aunts, and even the friends in your life, every mom would love an Aura frame. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $30 off plus free shipping on their best-selling frame. That's auraframes.com and use code KINDAFUNNY at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. This episode's brought to you by Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers an unrivaled product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and world-class optics for all outdoor adventures. With an extensive array of styles and colors, you're bound to find the perfect pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. Y'all know I've been outside in the sun playing a lot of Pokemon Go, and it's such a great experience wearing Shady Rays when I am out and about looking dope. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost or broken replacements. If you lose or break a pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Exclusively for you, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code KF20 for $20 off each pair of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode's brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. I'm currently planning a wedding, so I know all about that. But when we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy helps you find your strengths so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. You can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace, and it can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. Some of my best friends use BetterHelp and love how helpful it can be for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself, and it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/kindafunny today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/kindafunny. And we're back. Slushy writes in and says, Should I wait till it's version 1.0? And here's the thing. Normally, I would say yes. Just a couple weeks ago, we did an episode of Gamescast talking about early access and our thoughts on it and everything. And one of the biggest hurdles I had is, especially for a game that feels as complete as Hades 2 early access does, it's like, I don't want to put this much into a game and then not being able to continue over and all that. When you boot up Hades 2 early access, there's a thing that pops up that says like, hey, roadmap for our future plans. And in it, they say they're going to try their best to make all of this transfer over to the final game. So with that being said, for a game that's probably going to end up being like 50 hours plus, get in, man. Like there is so much game here. Like I don't think you're going to be missing out on much.
I tend to agree with that. I think especially if, we had the early play test. We had that server play test or whatever it is that they put out, and you fought the first boss, and whenever you were done with the first boss, you went right back to the beginning. I think if they only had one additional boss, maybe wait. If maybe you got to the end of the second world and then you beat that boss and you restart, maybe in that case wait. But man, we are going way deep sort of in these gameplay loops that I think Bless, you mentioned that there is one more boss that's missing, according to Mitchell Saltzman.
One more region.
Yeah, one region, one area.
Yeah.
There is so much meat on this bone. Like, I think you should definitely hop in, especially I can't guarantee that the price is cheaper now than it is going to be at release. I know a lot of early access games do that. I don't know if Hades is doing the same thing. I'll look that up right now, but I would say absolutely hop in right now if you have any interest, because it is so much more massive than I really thought it was going to be during this early access period.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bless?
I mean, I'm conflicted. I'm with you guys that like, man, it is feature rich, and the idea of the saved progress possibly transferring over is like a big, okay, well, this might be a fine thing. I do get bummed out about the idea that, man, I am 12 hours in. I could see myself putting in 20 more hours and then getting to the end and there not being an end yet.
Yeah.
Like the idea of that kind of bums me out. And like, of course I'm putting myself into this. I'm the one that's playing the early access. That's not on them. But I almost wish that I could have waited a bit and be like, yeah, let me just play this whole thing when it's out, because I'm the kind of person to play things all in one go, right? I'm not the kind of person to play something, put it down, come back months later, play more, put it down, play, and then come back months later. So that's kind of making me be like, ooh, man, I don't know. But honestly, if you're the kind of person, if you're listening to me right now and you're like, yeah, I don't mind playing 30 hours, 50 hours of a thing and then coming back later, a year later, to see how it ends, then yeah, go for it.
Real quick, the Supergiant has mentioned that the $30 price, depending on the duration of early access and additional scope, the price may be raised at a later date. So they already kind of put that. It could be more expensive later on. Paris, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of, I look at it this way. Excuse me. If you love the first Hades, this being early access, like I said, I'm probably 18-ish hours into this. I feel like I'm still barely scratching the surface. So there's still so much more to do, this even being early access. Sure, you might have to wait for more, but look at it this way. Kind of look at it as an expansion pack DLC. You get to play Hades 2 now. There's no way in hell I'd be waiting. I'm playing it because it's that polished already, and there's so much to do in it now. And there's I believe the Path of Punishment, kind of their new game plus in this as well, where you can modify difficulty as well. So there's still going to be stuff to do even once you do beat the final boss. So yeah, I say go for it.
Paris, sticking with you for a sec. Dante the Clerk says, if you have not played Hades 1, would you recommend playing Hades 1 first or skipping straight to 2?
I would play 1 first. Because that game is that good that I think you want to experience that, and I think it just enhances your experience going into Hades 2, knowing what the events have happened in Hades 1.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think Hades, I think also just going in with the skill of having played Hades 1 and taking that into Hades 2, like I think that's just going to enhance it more from the get-go.
And you've been playing Hades 1 randomly recently,
yeah, very
right?
recently. Yeah, I've been playing a lot more Hades 1, and like that comes from me having like not actually completed a run before, and I was like, you know what, let me get back into it and see if I can do that. And so I've been playing a lot of Hades 1 recently. Funny thing is that after playing enough Hades 2 now, I'm like, oh man, I might be fucking up Hades 1 right now. Like I'm having so much of a better time in Hades 2, right? And that's not saying that I didn't have a great time in Hades 1, because I did have a great time in Hades 1, but like it just feels like jumping forward in a way where I almost want to just put this down and be like, let me just commit and play as much Hades 1 as possible and finish this so that I can just fully usher myself into the second one. But yeah, like if you're somebody who's not played either, I would say, play Hades 1, like focus on that. And then maybe when early access is up and the game Hades 2 is out and full release, pick it up then.
Yeah, if it comes down to, Hades 1 is on a crazy sale right now, and do I jump into Hades 2 that is not fully feature complete, although it feels like 80%, 85, 90% done. Yeah, hop into Hades 1, especially because hopping into Hades 2, you'll see a bit more of those enhancements. And exactly. I think playing Hades 2 first and then hopping back into Hades 1, you might start to feel like, this stuff is missing, and or you may not, because I largely do think like it is like just enough of an enhancement to feel the differences there, but I would hate to go back. I would hate for you to go back and feel like your experience, is lessened because you've experienced the game, years and years after Supergiant has been able to really hone down on these systems.
It is funny because after the technical test, when I didn't know how soon the early access was coming, I was in such a Hades mood that I went back to Hades 1 just a bit, just to do a couple runs and see. And I was shocked at how much better 2 felt to me in a one-to-one direct comparison. And maybe that's just the bias of being so much more into, but I was very surprised at how much of an improvement it felt like. And it's no one big way. It's just a lot of little ways that add up to overall a feel and look that I'm just like, oh my God, Supergiant are on a different level.
Yeah. Earlier, Andy was talking about like chasing like a roguelite that was going to meet the standards of Hades 1, right? And like you had mentioned Returnal. And for me, when I think about my roguelike experience and like jumping from Rogue Legacy to Dead Cells to Hades to Returnal, I think I was more engaged with it than I was with Hades at the time, specifically from the action standpoint. Like I just liked playing Returnal as like an action game more than I like the action of Hades 1. Hades 2 has, I think, taken that over for me, where the Hades 2 action just feels so good. Like it has gotten to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, I think this is just my favorite playing roguelike. And I didn't feel that way about Hades 1, but Hades 2 somehow was able to do it for me.
In the ways that I think about how Bungie and 343 can really try to get those satisfying experiences for you when you have a rocket launcher in your hand and they purposely throw out 2 elites and 4 grunts, and they know that they know I'm going to hit these 6 dudes with a rocket launcher. They're all going to fly. It's just going to fill me with so much happiness throughout my body. Mm-hmm. And like the enemies that they have made in a lot of these zones for Hades 2, it's just so satisfying to put up your grasp, and it's a gigantic circle on the bottom, and enemies can't get through it, but all these little fuckers just get caught in the grasp, and you have what feels like 30 of them in there because they're little tiny dudes, and you just go to town on them, and it's just like gigantic attack. And in addition to how awesome the sound design is, and using like Hephaestus's like what sounds like whenever you get your hammer to upgrade your offense, and you hear like that ding, that little metal clinging, but Hephaestus's thing going ding, 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 all over the place, dude. It's just like they know what makes that serotonin hit. It's just like it feels awesome to experience. Not only that, but of course, like we were mentioning earlier, the music. Like we quickly brushed over it before we went to the ad break, but Darren Korb and the whole team working on the sounds there and having all of it feel so dynamic. We talk about how Spider-Man is so amazing with like, let's ramp it up when you start swinging, let's slow it down when once you're kind of just walking around on the ground. And they do a lot of that same stuff here. As soon as the fight ends, the music ends, but that bass line is so doodly-doon, doodly-doon, and it's just perfect, man. Like the songs that they've come up with for these boss fights are so damn hype.
And the boss fights themselves too, I think, are fantastic. Yeah. Every single one I've hit so far, I'm like, this is such a good concept. And yeah, I don't want to spoil any of what they are, but they're fucking good.
They're having so much fun with the boss fights, like in a way that I feel like I didn't get from one. I didn't even think I needed it. One's had bosses that were like, yeah, this is the boss, that's cool. This one, every boss and that's not entirely true. 1 did have some pretty cool things, but like 2 so far, I'm just like, and I've only faced 2 bosses, but both of them, I'm like, I love you. Like this is just so. The first one, I'm like, all right, this is perfect for what I expected, but like this is perfect Hades. The second one, I'm like, this is one of the coolest things I've experienced in a while. Andy,
Since this is early access, and part of it is giving feedback, what do we think Hades 2 should improve on for its 1.0 release? Bears.
You would come to me first because I don't know. It feels great. You would come to me first. Yeah, I mean that is a great question. Yeah, I truly don't know because I don't have any real big complaints so far of they really need to tighten this up. I'm sure some of the attacks that we're currently doing, they could be refined a little bit. But I mean, overall, I don't know. It just feels so polished. It feels really good. It almost feels like they just need more time to add more content to the game versus actually, the fine tuning of the game itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with Paris. I genuinely don't know. Like, I think it feels so fine tuned. There are, I guess, moments in menus. There are like a few specific menus where text was on top of other text and I couldn't read like a certain thing. But that happens like a very, very specific menu. I think in terms of tuning, I could see the magic system being turned down a little bit because I am relying very, very heavily on that magic meter and like the enhanced like Omega moves. And that stuff, it doesn't feel OP, but it does feel very emphasized in a way that I most runs I am relying on that. So I could see that being turned down a little bit. But aside from that, it's like really tough to think about things that I would want them to fix. I'm just looking forward to seeing like what I will say. I guess I don't know how they would fix it, or even if this is like a thing that I just need to get used to. This goes back to how environment to environment they're doing different things, right? There is like a design to the third environment that you get to that feels a bit almost too open, right? Where it is, oh man, I'm kind of getting lost here. That might come back to maybe I just need to like conjure some things, like craft some things to help that out. Maybe it is like maybe the more I do it, the more I'll kind of understand like the exact routing of it. I'm being very vague because I don't want to spoil the concept, but I could see maybe that being dialed in a little bit.
I'm with them that it's hard. I struggle to find things that I can criticize because I'm just having such a great time. And I feel like with Hades 1, one of my big criticisms was, even though I'm having fun every run, there were runs that felt like I wasn't getting something from it. That's just not the case here. So my biggest criticism has been addressed. I do think that, and earlier I said that like you just don't worry about getting overwhelmed. Just go through it and like you'll understand things as it happens. I am kind of at a point though that with the amount of different, there's the water stuff and the fire stuff, like there's just so many layers to this that I'm getting a lot of things and I don't always know exactly what it's doing. And I don't know the way to fix that because going to the menus is not helping me. Like you can hit left on the D-pad and it like brings up all the boons you have and all the enhancements. There's just a lot of logos. There's just a lot of just different symbols and things. And I'm like, I know what most of these things are, and I'm pretty sure I know what some of them are, but then I'm like, oh wait, no, I was wrong about that. So there'll be runs where I'm like, all right, I need to get this element or whatever the hell it is. And then you go and you have the option of the 2 different doors and you see the pictures and I'm like, I don't remember which each one of these is.
Ash and grass.
Yeah, it's like, and
I wish I could have something else.
Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's just something that I feel like a lot of this it is what the game is. So I don't see them fixing it, but there's a lot of reliance on you remembering that this symbol equals this person and this symbol equals this element or this resource or whatever it is. There's just so much of it that I kind of wish that there was a way to get a better refresher of like, that's what that thing
like
is.
On the if you press right on the D-pad, it brings up like a breakdown of like what the different things are. Are you using that or is it like
hit right on the D-pad?
I think it's left.
Or is it left?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That menu though, I just think is overwhelming. Looking at it, it's like I've found, if I'm looking for a complaint here, this is so nitpicky, but it's like I've found that there's been a couple times that I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I want to know, and I try to look, and I can't figure it out. So.
Gotcha.
On a similar note, I would love if for cast upgrades, if they're a little bit more clear, kind of upfront on certain upgrades of. If it's a upgrade to your normal cast where you just put down like you press B and you put down like the circle, or if it's a upgrade to holding cast, which is like a
Right.
more
Yeah, that's a good idea.
updated ability, or like a more enhanced version of that ability. Because there's like
There's the Omega symbol.
Reading that on Steam Deck is really fucking small. I think it should be a bit more clear. Maybe like having the Omega symbol not in the small text, but like maybe next to the big like clear icon a bit bigger. But besides that, that's like really the only complaint that I have.
And I guess actually jumping off that, I was saying it earlier, the hex stuff I don't fully understand. And I feel like the reason I don't understand it is it's pretty clear when you read what the abilities are, but I feel like in use, I struggle every time I come across a new one. It's like a lot of the abilities you get of specials or attack, you're like, okay, cool. I get what this means. And even if you read it and you don't fully get it, you play a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, that's where the lightning goes, or that's how that happens, and you're cool. Some of the hex stuff, I'm like, the way to trigger it, and hexes are like a third enhancement type move you can do with the right trigger. And it'll be like, all right, you need to use this percentage of your magic before you can trigger your hex, but it only happens every
the priming and stuff
seconds.
is kind of
confusing. Yeah, priming. I guess that's what it is. Some of that stuff I'm just like, I currently still do not understand.
Yeah.
But see, that's to the point of what Andy originally said. Those are some of the kind of the things that they can still tweak and listen to feedback on and make it a little more simplified for people to understand how to properly use that stuff. Now, one other question I did have, because Barrett actually just said it right now. How is it on the Steam Deck? Because I have not tried that.
It's very good.
It's very good.
Tim, I don't even want to know how it looks on the OLED. I just don't want you to tell me.
I mean, legitimately, y'all know my thoughts on OLED. Y'all understand all this stuff. Hades 2 is worth getting a Steam Deck OLED for. Like,
Wow.
I feel like it's a killer app for the Steam Deck, man. I see myself playing this forever on this thing. It is incredible.
I'm enjoying playing on my desktop more than even my Steam Deck. But I think that's also when I'm playing on like a widescreen, and then also I have my Xbox Elite controller. And man, I'm just getting fucking lost.
I mean, let me tell you, Hades 2 is giving Tim Geddes everything I could possibly ask for. Playing on my Steam Deck OLED, and it's just looking and running as perfectly as it does,
and not then eating up a lot of battery life as well.
Dude, my God. It's insane, man. I'm playing this thing for hours on end, having such a good time on full brightness. Like, I'm like, fuck it, man, burn my retinas.
Yeah,
the colors are so good. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I saw Danny Pena playing on his super ultra wide, so 32:9 resolution, which honestly, as cool as it is and gimmicky as it is and like impressive as that can be, I have found I don't actually enjoy playing games that way. It's just a little bit too much, and games are very rarely, if ever, optimized for it.
What are my heels?
Hades 2, though. Oh my God. It's stunning on this thing. Like, and the way that the art looks, the way that you're seeing the areas, it's just like, I don't understand how this game can look so good in any resolution running on anything, but man, this is such a great example of why OLED matters.
Yeah, I also love how on Steam Deck it fully takes advantage of the 1280 by 800 resolution, which isn't typical 16:9. It does kind of a bit on the top and the bottom, and like sort of whenever you speak to any of these NPCs, they have little art to sort of fill in for those situations. But yeah, getting that full resolution is fantastic. I'm glad. I love whenever, especially games this early, are already prepped to do that, and they know that like that's something that people are going to want to see. They're not going to want the 16:9 bars at the top. People are going to want that full resolution. It runs phenomenal. It looks great. It's also, you also got to understand that this is like largely super similar to Hades 1, which is a 5-year-old game. So it's like, oh yeah, it does make sense that it does run this good and look this good.
To your point, though, like the Steam Deck, I am so impressed by it using that aspect ratio and like filling the screen, and it feels so at home. Just getting that little bit of extra height, this game feels like it was made for that. But then I play Super Ultra Wide, I'm like, it feels like it was made for that too. Like, I feel like the game is just very dynamic.
My OLED monitor, let me tell you, it's fantastic.
Quick question that I have with the cards that you're unlocking that you can kind of mix and match with that. I forget like what currency.
Grasp?
Yeah, like and you only have like 10 points to like really fill out. Each card is like a certain amount of points and stuff. There was one that was like 0, but you had to like do a certain thing to actually have it activate, and it was like
you had to like get like 1 through 5. Like the each card has a cost, in that
Yeah.
overall slot thing, and you would have to get like a card that costs 1, a card that costs 2, a card that costs 3, a card that costs 4, and a card that costs 5. If you
But
activate
that's
those 5
more
cards, it activates
than
at 0.
10.
You can upgrade that thing to
You
have more.
can?
Yeah.
So I've got mine up to like 20 now or 18 or something
Yeah,
like that.
mine is like 23.
So you essentially
no wonder
have
I'm struggling.
you have more
How do you
cards
get that
can bring it
stuff?
up.
Because I'm still at 10
It's
and
the
I
blue
want.
currency, right?
Yeah, so that's something that that's one of those things because there are many systems. Yeah, when you're forgetful like me, you can kind of just forget that there are things to upgrade. And so that was something that I realized way later on. That like, oh shit, this thing actually just gives me more slots. Thank Christ, because I barely discovered that within the last hour of my 13, 14 hours or whatever.
I discovered that early, and I was like, "Oh, we're cooking."
Yeah.
I'm about to fucking get so many cards. I've been looking for just that currency.
Starting off with all that money, plus with Charon's 200 coin boost,
Yep.
like start off a run of like
Dude,
300
a fucking
coins.
Death
I'm
Defiance
loaded.
in there. Oh, I got like 3 Death Defiances right
a
now.
great
I'm
time.
fucking-
Man, no wonder you guys are getting so far. I was like struggling to get past the second area of like, and I'm just constricted to like this 10.
I mean, I got to the third boss before I knew any of that. So
I got the little final boss.
I got a couple a super chat right here. Hugo PR says, based on my time with the tech test, they could improve the grind with all the multiple resources. Hades 1 was more streamlined.
I feel like I disagree because there are always things to be doing. Like I do appreciate that the system has this forget me not system that whenever you go out for a run, you can be reminded, hey, you want this plant, you want this piece of steel. Like you're trying to get to this item, but in order to do so, you need these 3 elements or 2 elements or whatever. I rarely feel like I'm grinding for that stuff. It all just feels so supplemental.
Yeah.
Like it's so kind of in the background in my mind. Maybe that's just the way that I'm playing, where like I'm focused on the run and the run only. And that thing that I'm upgrading to isn't, life or death for me. And that's just something that I'm kind of like working on in addition to just trying to get, that next weapon upgrade. Oh, favorite weapons. We'll talk about that.
Oh,
Yeah. The thing that I like about the grind here is that whenever I go in, I am going after a different resource. Like it's very rare where I have a situation that I had in Hades 1 where, maybe like 30 to 40% of my Hades 1 runs were looking for darkness. Like I was looking for that permanent upgrade, and that's like the only thing I was going for. Whereas here it is, I might be looking for the blue currency. I might be looking for the gray one. I might be looking for a specific thing that I need to dig up. Oh, that's another thing.
Are those bones?
Yeah. Bones. Another thing to shout out is that before you go on a run, not only do you pick a weapon, you also pick a tool, right? And so you might pick a shovel, you might pick a fucking fishing rod, and you're going after different resources, and that affects like what you can find and how you can find it.
Don't you love how they always show you the thing that you don't have?
Yeah.
Always.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
You're going out with a shovel because you want to be digging some stuff, and first thing you see is like a pile of rocks that you could break with your pickaxe. Like, God damn
like,
it!
dang, I
You're
wish I
only
got a
showing me
pickaxe.
that because I don't have it.
But yeah, like based on all that stuff, there is always something different that I am looking for in my runs, and I think that works well. And again, I keep doing the thing where, all right, this run, I know I just need like 3 of this resource, and so I'm gonna do that, and then probably die and then get back, so I can just fucking upgrade that thing real quick and cut off the game. But the game does such a good job of giving you such good upgrades so early that it is. I can't waste this run. Like you go in looking for one thing, and then you end up at the final boss somehow.
Yeah.
It's so cool, man. Paris, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually, I was just pinging Barrett offline. I unfortunately have a slight family emergency I need to go take care of, so I'm gonna have to bow out of here. Unfortunately,
Good luck,
I
dude.
will
Good
say,
luck.
yeah, I will say as I part ways. This is, I don't even know if we're putting a reviewed score number on this, but this is must play. Hades 2 is must play, early access. I don't care if it's early access. It is, you hear everything that we've already said. We're nitpicking at this point for anything to be wrong with this game. If you have the opportunity on Steam to go play it, jump on it immediately. You won't regret it at all. It's fantastic.
1,000,000%. Bye, Paris. Thank you for
Bye,
being
thanks,
here.
dude. Good
Paris.
luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's very, very cool. To answer the question about he was saying that based on his time with the tech test, they could improve the grind. I did find that in the tech test, some of the limited options that you had of like getting the different tools is improved in the early access. So like playing the early access might solve the problem you're having with the grindiness of it, because some of the grind that I remember doing the tech test you weren't even able to unlock some of the things that you were actually like grinding for. So it was just currency for currency's sake. Whereas in the early access, every single thing you're just like boom, 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 getting it and moving on.
I could not find a good loop with the axe.
Oh, dude, really?
I like.
Oh, first run with the
Axe
axe.
is my fucking go-to.
I love
man.
that
It's
axe.
so good.
The defense, like the special, of like
special, yeah.
blocking. I feel like that's maybe the weaker part, and it also maybe because I upgraded to a boon that only lets you do the third hit in the final in the combo.
Mm-hmm.
So with the axe, it's large, it's lumbering, it's a big heavy weapon.
Wait, so you're just doing
and it
like
hits
the
hard. Yeah.
You're doing that over and over again? That's awesome.
So I got a boon that skips the first swipe, the second swipe, and it only does the doom.
Do you
sort
know
of big
what's
charge.
crazy is that I had a boon that would make it so that that third hit would always do like the double hit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so like I would be like I'd be fucking mashing through the first 2 hits. I'm getting hit and I'm like I don't care because as long as I get this
I'm
last
tanking.
hit, you're fucking done.
Yeah.
And if I had that boon that you had, oh my god.
I wish I had a boon because one of my favorite boons to go along with any weapon is I think the staff is or the spear is still my favorite weapon. I love the range you get on it. I love the speed of it, and especially if you get the ranged upgrade, that's freaking fantastic. But if you can get the faster upgrade that Hermes supplies or the double hit, it just feels like it feels perfect to me.
The one that I really love is that the area of attack for the axe you can upgrade to make it like way larger. And then having like I think it's the ring that you can equip that whenever you use magic for the first 3 seconds after you use magic, it'll just like refill your magic bar. And I feel like there's another upgrade I had for the special attack for the axe where you like just spin it around for hella long. And that uses magic, but because my magic was constantly filling itself back up, I just had like unlimited magic use and unlimited use of that attack while also like I think it also gave like electric damage and shit, and it was an insane run.
the only
But
weapon
that second boss still fucks me up.
the only weapon I wasn't feeling as much is like the close range, like the fast close range. I think it's like a sickle type weapon.
Yeah, the little daggers.
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
them's a sickle, one of them's a knife or something
Yeah,
like that.
that one I wasn't feeling, but I've only done one run with that, and it was not a great run.
That's my go-to.
Oh, is it really?
I love it.
See,
I
that's
love it
that's
so
good
much,
to hear
man.
because
Yeah.
it sounds like every weapon seems viable in some way.
It's cool, man. Delaney Twining writes in says, "Is the base weapon variety better than one? I mostly stuck with the sword or shield in one, and those were my best runs. I never really used the spear or bow."
I think unequivocally yes.
Yeah.
I like these weapons way more than the ones in the first one.
They're varied and interesting, and because she's a witch, they really lean into the magic side of it, even with like every weapon has some type of like magic taint to it. That's a weird thing to say, but but like one of the weapons is kind of like a more witchy like kind of staff, and then it shoots out these like balls that circle around her.
Yeah.
And I haven't wrapped my head around like how to use it in gameplay. God, I love when this happens. But it's so cool to like when I get doubled up of that, and like when you get the right boons, and all of a sudden you're just being surrounded by these like giant magic balls.
Yeah.
It's like this is so cool, and I'm so impressed with the variety of the weapons and how they play. Everyone feels good, even the big axe. It's like it's a much slower type of or hammer or whatever it is. It's a much slower game, right? But I feel like the way that the boons interact with the weapons, in the same way that I don't understand how there's limitless amounts of dialogue in this game, I don't understand how there's limitless amounts of fun combinations where I feel like every boon enhances every weapon in such a creative way that that's what makes the runs feel so good, is that no matter what I'm doing, especially because they have that system with the every run, one of the weapons is like enhanced or whatever to like,
Get more resources.
which makes you want to try that weapon out. And it's like, all right,
I don't think I've hit that.
you must.
I think it's a thing that you craft in like the
Oh,
cauldron.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, because I remember that in Hades 1 where they'd be like, hey, this one's going to pop off for you. You'll get more XP or whatever, more rewards if you go out with the bow this time. But
Yeah.
I haven't hit that yet, surprisingly, because I've been digging all sorts of plants all over the place.
Oh yeah, dude.
I have like 4 little crops, 4 little plant things.
I do
Oh,
too,
dude, I
yeah.
got those too.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice.
God, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
But do you guys agree with what I'm saying of just like the way that the boons interact with the weapons feels like just incredibly
Oh, yeah.
limitless and fun?
It keeps going. Like I there have been so many times where it is. Yeah, I like how specific the boons are. Like the first game did this too, where it is like depending on the weapon you have, the boons will have a specific effect for that weapon. But here it does feel a bit more, again, emphasized on like the weapons have more. It feels like they have way more unique aspects to them that are being enhanced or that are being altered. And I get very excited when it is, hey, the attack is just different now. Like this boon is changing the base attack for this weapon to be something completely different. And yeah, it feels like it is. It feels like they're so far they go down the rabbit hole of like just changing up the way you play, right? Like the halfway through the first environment, it is okay. Well, I guess I'm playing a completely different game than I was in the first half of this environment.
Favorite god, favorite.
See, this I wanted to ask, like, or even just talk about the characters, because I love the characters, like the cast of characters so far in this game, probably equally, if not more, than in the first one. I mean, Nemesis, man. Nemesis.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nemesis, but also shout out to Eris. Shout out to everybody.
Shout out to everybody.
What, the ones you're using though for upgrades.
Oh, you didn't just mean in general.
I didn't just mean baddies.
Oh, I thought you shout out the baddies.
I would go with my favorite one to use is probably Hestia, the fire one. I've had so many great runs with combining all of the scorch damages and lighting these enemies on fire, and then there being an ability that once if I have Scorch on my main attack and Scorch on my special and maybe even Scorch on my grasp, if you hit a certain amount of combined Scorch and that does an ultimate, even bigger power move, and combining and chaining all those things have been super great for me. And Poseidon's probably my least favorite.
That's so weird because
I like Poseidon's sprint where he pushes water at bad guys, but aside from that, I think Poseidon's coolest thing is the one that gives you more money and health whenever you find money and health. He's probably my least favorite. Whenever he pops up, I'm like, all right, I'm not super stoked about this run.
And that's funny because I feel the same, but I loved Poseidon's upgrades in the first game, and I think it's just like what they try to turn his stuff into for the more like witchy stuff. I'm just not feeling as much. I also just as like this is my first ever like early access game that I've really fucked around with, and one of the you just like reminded me bringing up Hestia. Like I love that there's like kind of this default hooded kind of NPC art that they use for characters that they don't
placeholder art.
Yeah, like the placeholder art, and it was really cool.
Oh,
of,
is
like,
that
having
what that
Hestia,
was?
and so like having Hestia like have that default character art, and then I think it was like last night, maybe 2 nights ago, I played for a little bit, and she got like character art like updated into the game. I was like, oh shit, this is cool,
dude. That's so funny because when I saw Hestia pop up, like her actual art, I was like, oh, she's not hiding from me anymore. Like, I thought there was some weird narrative.
So
I thought there was a narrative
what's his
reason.
face? Karen is the
yeah.
like he has that art too,
And
he's
also
got a big hat.
Also, the dude that sounds like Nicolas Cage.
Oh, Narcissus.
Yeah, Narcissus. Yeah,
So sick.
he's got that same placeholder art, but I was like, this guy sounds like he's doing a Nicolas Cage impression. I love
This
it.
makes so much sense because I thought all of them were hiding from me. I was like, oh, I just gotta talk to
Maybe
them.
I gotta give him
From you is
give
the
him some
funniest
nectar.
way to put it. What?
I was like, I gotta just have them warm up.
Give
to
him
me.
nectar.
Like it worked for Hestia. Like, and I was like, this makes so much sense. Because I was like, Hestia didn't look like that under the hood. Like Hestia has like a whole different body type.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Incredible.
All right. Well, that has been our thoughts so far on Hades 2's early access. I'm sure we'll be playing a whole bunch more. I know for a fact that me and Andy will right after this. We're going to be streaming on Twitch and YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, just keep hanging out. We're going to be playing all day long. If you're on YouTube, you're going to have to make the jump to the other stream, but I promise you it's going to be worth it. We're going to have a great time hanging out with y'all. Remember, this is our new schedule. Every single weekday, we're going to be live on Twitch and YouTube pretty much all day, talking about video games, playing video games, talking about a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It's a great time. Thank you all for hanging out. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.